Welcome to Divisive Issues, a comic book podcast where we talk about comic books. I'm Ryan Lynch.
I'm Cy Crappa.
I'm Phil Maverick, yes.
And I'm Darryl Steffen.
Hey guys.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
So, the comic we're doing today, if you remember the Bronze Age Superman episode where we did I Am Curious Black, where Lois becomes a black woman?
I remember, but I doubt our hosts that weren't on it remember.
I remember. Thanks for speaking for me.
But if you remember that that episode, this story is basically a remake of that story featuring Punisher and Luke Cage.
I don't know if I would say it's a remake.
I would. Okay, so let me give the synopsis of this, and I'll argue it's a remake because Punisher, just like Lois Lane, has to infiltrate a ghetto, black ghetto, and he befriends heroic black man in Luke Cage, and he's slowly turning white. And Punisher's afraid what will happen if he turns white, and Luke Cage will judge him.
Wait, can we also say though that he's not like, I want to become black to infiltrate this ghetto. He becomes black so that he can escape the law enforcement. That's basically.
Well, that's a technicality. It's the same basic premise.
So who's the target audience for the story, Sly?
I guess if you're interested in Luke Cage
or Punisher.
Do you think this is like a Punisher story?
Well, it does grapple with the themes that Punisher does in like Daredevil season 2 or something, where it's about like, is it okay to kill criminals? And Punisher's like, yes.
Fun fact: this is actually one of my first Punisher stories I ever read.
Yeah,
This?
I liked him in the Punisher. I like Punisher in the Spider-Man cartoon, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go read Punisher. I bought the comic and I bought this, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Well, surprise! This is the first Punisher story I ever read.
I mean, Sly, did you ever make me read Punisher way back in the day?
Yeah, I made you read the good stuff though, like
okay. I was trying to remember because I'm like, I'm familiar with it, but I don't remember from what.
I don't remember this part.
Yeah, I think if you like Punisher, you would enjoy this because I got excited yesterday reading this.
Sexually excited.
Yeah.
So we did this because Luke Cage was going to have his own Netflix show coming up, and we needed a Luke Cage story to do for it, and. This story was actually written to hype up the new Luke Cage series at the time, just called Cage. And it was the first Luke Cage series to make him just be Luke Cage, not Power Man, which is what his superior title was.
Also, Zach has suggested the story like 10 times, and I keep being like, yeah. So now we're doing it. This is for you.
We gotta have a Luke Cage story, so might as well do the one where the most notable thing is what happens to the Punisher, right?
Yeah.
Typical white privilege.
To be fair, when I read it, it really did seem like a good promo for like why Luke Cage is an interesting dude and why his stories are interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And this story was also co-written by the guy who wrote the Luke Cage series at the time. The main writer is Mike Baron, who was one of the longest Punisher writers. He wrote Punisher for like 57 issues, the original series.
He wrote Punisher for 57 years.
57. And Marcus McLaurin is the guy who wrote Cage, and he did it with conjunction with Mike Baron. And so
that's really cool that they had the foresight to have him co-write it.
Yeah, and it gives lets him have a chance to sample what a Cage series is in Punisher.
Yeah, definitely. And Val Myrick did all the penciling.
Val Myrick is notable because I think he co-created Howard the Duck.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, so.
Cool.
It's quite a noteworthy achievement.
You don't know how good Howard the Duck is, Darryl.
No, I don't.
I don't either. It sounds stupid.
That's the one episode I didn't listen to because Sean was on it.
Well, the movie isn't much like the comic anyway.
Yeah.
Even though Ryan loves it either way.
Maybe we'll get to Howard the Duck at some point.
Maybe.
Yeah, wink, wink.
All right, so the plot is... Spoilers, of course. It opens up with a flashback to the earlier issues, because this is actually a sequel to a big Punisher event called Punisher Last Days, which wasn't really the last days because this story happened right after.
I love all the comic event things that are like the end of time, apocalypse, and it's just like, it's not ending though.
Nothing will be the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically, the flashback is Punisher. He had his partner Microchip get kidnapped. Microchip was like Punisher's tech guy. He got kidnapped by the Kingpin, and Kingpin basically blackmailed Punisher to do his dirty work and kill his rival bosses in order to. Punisher did it in order to free Microchip, but basically Kingpin uses it as a way to set up the Punisher, and Punisher got sent to prison. And in prison, he got his face fucked up, and after he escaped from prison, he had to find a plastic surgeon, and it was a heroin junkie called Melinda.
It's just how this plastic surgeon looks like this like super beautiful prostitute.
I thought she was naked when she first was shown on screen.
It looks like a cliche, like Hollywood prostitute, basically.
Yeah, it's like the most ridiculous. Like, how is this a plastic surgeon?
And like her boobs are so big, and you're like, how is this even like? How are your clothes staying on physically?
And she does the surgery in that little dress too.
And she's a heroin addict, but she looks sexy as hell.
Like
Oh yeah,
look at us making judgments.
yeah.
You can't be hot if you do heroin.
I mean, this is just a recap. We didn't read the story. Maybe it makes sense.
Yeah,
maybe. Just like what happens next makes sense, right? Where Punisher, in order to hide his appearance, Melinda surprises him by revealing, "I fixed up your face and made you a black man now."
Yeah, like not just his face though.
His whole entire body is black.
Yeah, his whole body is black. What?
Yeah. His hair's different.
Well, I think she just gave him a crew cut or whatever.
No, they're like I was thinking about how to say this, but like when she changes his skin, it's not like she just makes his skin color different. She like his hair looks like a black guy's hair.
Yeah, like round, like curlish.
Yeah, very curly.
She gave him a perm.
His hair in the panel right before it is so different, and when he eventually transitions back to whiteness, it just immediately goes
spoilers.
Back.
Yeah,
whatever.
And like it also like he doesn't just look like the Punisher in blackface. Like he has different features.
Yeah, he looks like a different guy.
Yeah,
That's what's crazy. He's like this plastic surgery is not like just a face transplant type thing. Like she like injects him with stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing. He gets some treatment.
The reasoning was that it like suppressed his melatonin, I think.
No, it puts his melanin in hyperdrive or something, so that because melanin gives you darker skin, something like that.
Yeah,
they comic it.
Comics, lol.
Yeah, you inject someone, they become a black man.
Well, if you have a story where a guy becomes a black person, it's never going to be anything but comics LOL.
Yeah, because that's just a ridiculous thing.
Yes. So the story opens with, after the flashback, the plastic surgeon and the Punisher. They're trying to escape New York because that's the name of this particular issue, Escape from New York City. And Punisher drops her off at Buffalo, and she leaves some drugs in the glove compartment for him, and he's just like, "I'm not taking this fucking speed," and he throws it out the car as he's driving away from her.
She says it's Dexedrine. Do we know what that is?
I guess it's speed.
It's for ADHD people to help them focus, I believe.
Okay, I don't know why she thinks the Punisher needs this.
Well, it's because he's really weak.
He's got a surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he got a surgery and he hadn't slept for hours, and so he's pretty weak. And which is relevant because he starts falling asleep as he's driving towards which city was it? Chicago, yes. So he's getting tired and he starts swerving in the road and passes out and momentarily, which makes the police, very Southern acting police, pull him over, and they're like, "What are you doing in this fine car, boy? Like, you're all over the road, boy."
Yeah, you can see their southern accent on the panel.
And he's swerving on the road, and 4 cop cars pull him over.
Yeah. And Punisher is just like, he's like out of it, saying, "Oh, I should have stopped and slept," while the cops are like, "What's the matter, boy? Cat got your tongue?" And then one of them hits Punisher inside of a baton and says, "Maybe the coon's got his tongue. Answer me, I'm talking to, son." Like,
it's so instantly like, wow, these guys are the most racist.
Yeah. And Punisher always has a very heavy inner monologue because all this stuff is recorded in his Punisher War journal, so it's always written like as a journal entry. But he says, Punisher thinks himself, "Sometimes my reflexes betray me. I had no patience for bigots when I was white. Now that I'm black, I don't like it any better." And he starts fighting the cops.
I like that he immediately is like, "Now that I'm black, like this is my new identity forever. I'm a black man."
I found that really funny throughout the whole comic, how he actually acts as if he's like, "I know what it's like to be oppressed as a black man."
Yeah.
And as this is happening, Luke Cage coincidentally pulls up on the same road, and he says, "Fucking bunch of cop wannabes got my exit block." And he gets out of the car and immediately assumes that since the cops are beating up a black man, the black man must be the one that's on the right. So he's beating the shit out of the cops without even asking what the situation is. Like, he just runs up. And starts...
Well, they see him on the ground and 6 cops wailing on him. I mean,
yeah, that's excessive force.
Well, if he has like a gun on him or something, and Punisher just
whoa, look at Sly over here.
You're just like those cops.
Just real quick, if you didn't watch Jessica Jones, Luke Cage is you know a lot more about Luke Cage than me, Sly. What would you say other than he has unbreakable skin?
Oh yeah, I'll just give a quick backstory on Luke Cage. Luke Cage has unbreakable skin.
Thanks.
He's also super strong, right?
Yeah, he's super strong, and he's one of Marvel's first earliest black heroes. He was created to tap into the black exploitation thing going on in the 70s,
like Blackula and those kind of movies.
Yeah, and that's why he was called he became Power Man, Black Power, and stuff like that. And
one thing I want to point out that's so dumb about comics, he's not even the first Power Man, arguably the worst superhero name.
But it actually makes sense in his context why he'll be called Power Man. Right?
Yeah, but it's so funny that he's like, I gotta take up the mantle of Power Man.
Why not, like, I guess Black Panther was taken already.
Yeah, Black Panther. Everyone's gotta be Black Panther, right? Phil is the only black hero name you can have.
Or Electro.
Or Black Lightning.
I mean, Static Shock.
Well, you're like, he deserves to be that. He should be Power Man so he could be Black Power Man.
And also to give some quick backstory, basically, Luke Cage was out of comics for like a decade before this. He lost his main book, and he wasn't only guest starring on appearances. So this was his return to like being a prominent character again. And this is when they changed it from being Power Man, and also they got rid of his yellow costume and his tiara that he wore all the time in the 70s.
Oh, I haven't got to see that.
It doesn't look quite like a princess tiara, but it is a pretty. It's very like disco kind of costume.
Yeah.
If it's not a princess tiara, it's called a coronet. Okay.
Sorry.
So one thing I find funny about this comic is that you constantly mix up Luke Cage and Punisher, and they do that here, where now all of a sudden the Punisher is getting hit by the cops, even though it's supposed to be Luke Cage getting hit by the cops, showing off how invulnerable he is.
Oh my God, you're right.
They do that constantly at this comic. You could tell who is who because of Luke Cage's shoes are vastly different from the Punisher's, but colorists keep constantly fucking up who is who.
Yeah,
which is pretty racist to do.
Yeah, it's really. They're just like, I don't know which black guy this is.
They all the same to me, like Punisher, Luke Cage, whatever.
Sometimes Punisher has like a grayer tone, and he looks almost like a Frankenstein monster because like the colorist, I guess to help us differentiate between Luke and Frank, but it's just weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke Cage looks more healthy, I'd say, whereas Punisher looks like he's kind of like fading away.
I kind of what happens in Hollywood when they have white makeup artists do black people's skin. They don't know how to get the shade right, so black people say, a lot of makeup people maybe like a zombie. That's kind of what Frank Cass looks like right here, like a zombie Hollywood actor.
Yeah, that's good description.
Yeah, definitely.
So basically, Luke Cage beats the shit out of cops and helps the Punisher, and Punisher's like, and Luke Cage is like, where you going? And he's like, I gotta get to the South Side.
Does Luke Cage even ask like why the cops are after him?
No, that's a relevant thing in terms of the writing. But that's one thing I find funny, because Luke Cage just takes him along, and he's like, yeah, you just calling on me, guys. I don't give a shit about the cops beating up on you. Come along with me, boy.
They steal the cop car, too, and they're like, see ya.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I know Luke Cage as a hero from, like, later in the Marvel Universe. If I was reading this story, I would think he's a bad guy.
But it's worth pointing out, Luke Cage, when he first appeared, his origin was, he was framed for murder, and the reason why he got his powers was because in prison, the cops... the police experimented on him
as they do.
Yeah, but like he has not a good relationship with police. Like for the first 50 issues, he was an ex-con. So Punisher gets taken to his neighbor, Luke Cage's neighborhood, and he explains like, I'm Luke Cage, I'm a hero for hire.
So yeah, he's like a freelance superhero. So you pay him to do superhero stuff, kind of like if you saw the beginning of Deadpool.
Yeah, and what happens is they see a drug dealer dealing drugs on the street, and Luke Cage just picks him up and starts smacking him, saying, Ronaldo, I told you not to bring that stuff. You're bringing down the hood. Don't make me bring you down instead. And the drug dealer runs away, scared.
I mean, he slaps him across the face.
Yeah, like he bitch slaps him. And the little girl runs up to him saying, "Oh, there's drug dealers in our lobby. Like, you have to help us." And Luke Cage is like, "Oh, I'm too busy right now, but I promise I'll get to it later." But as they walk, Punisher passes out from being on the surgery and not sleeping for hours.
And beaten by cops.
Yeah.
Imagine just having plastic surgery and then having a bunch of people punch you in the face.
Yeah. And this is what I find funny. Now with some Luke Cage is concerned with who this guy is. Like, he says, like, after Punisher wakes up in Luke Cage's apartment, Luke Cage says, "What's your name, homie?" And Punisher says, I'm Frank Rook.
Get it? Because it's like Frank Castle.
I like that.
It was so dumb, especially if you're trying to hide. You're like, I'll just choose a chess piece.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Superman can hide behind a pair of glasses, he can hide behind a different race.
Yeah. But now Luke Cage is all of a sudden he's very hostile. Like, this ain't no flop house, Rook. You up, you gone. And now Punisher realizes, wait a minute, you're a Power Man, aren't you? And Luke Cage is like, I don't know what you're talking about. Never heard a name. Name's Cage. I would never use a stupid name like Power Man or Royal Yellow. But Punisher's like, no, I know you're Luke Cage. And once you help me out, I'll tell everyone you're Power Man, and everyone will make fun of you. No, he doesn't.
He might as well.
But he says, like, I got a proposition for you, Mr. Hero for Hire, cash money.
Dollar bills, Luke Cage.
Yeah. And now all of a sudden Luke Cage is like, man, you already crossed me with the law. You're kind of business I don't need. Like, now all of a sudden he's concerned with getting in trouble with the law. Like, he helps this guy beat up cops just without even knowing it. But now that he's asking, hey, I will pay you for helping me fight, potentially get in trouble with the cops. He's like, no, I can't do that now. I can't get paid for that.
Maybe he's just like, I don't want to do it again. I did it to help you out, but like, now to go and commit crimes.
But it just feels like this is a conversation Jared had when they first met. Like, it just seems like they're all of a sudden, Luke Cage is very friendly. All of a sudden,
But how else could the writers show that Luke Cage is cool? If he comes up and he's like, oh, what are you doing? I don't know if I can help you do this.
Just like Samantha in that Hulk issue, the only way he shows somebody's cool is by having them beat up cops, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Punisher says, no, this is legit. If you're serious about cleaning up this hood and not getting your hands dirty, this will work out for you. And he explains like he wants to, what does he want to do? I forget.
There's big time smack dealers he wants to break up.
Yeah.
And I think that's where his safe house is or something. He stored money and guns, and he's like, hey, if we break it up, not only will we reduce the power of the gangs, we'll get the guns off the street and into my hands.
Oh, yeah.
Punisher's trying to get back to his safe house, and Luke Cage is trying to clean up his neighborhood.
Because that's one thing Punisher does all the time. He always has millions of safe houses around the country, just in case.
They reference that. They're like, we only found 90 of his safe houses.
Yeah, that was insane. It's insane how many he has.
But to be fair, every time Punisher kills a person, he like takes all their guns, so like he has a lot stored up.
Yeah,
but how's he get to so many locations?
I think they're probably all like in. I mean, I don't know. Does he leave the East Coast much?
If only Joe was here. He's the one who knows everything about the Punisher.
I mean, honestly, this to me seems a lot more like a guy who's like Batman is always just like, I had the preparations already, just so you know. But Punisher, you could see he actually does spend the time to prepare for all this stuff because he doesn't have superpowers. Like,
that's
to me, it's like if someone did spend their whole life doing this, they could spend all this time making safe houses everywhere. If they had the
especially
money.
Since he takes whenever he breaks up drug rings, he takes all the money.
Yeah.
So like he would have a lot of money.
Well, it's kind of like Batman, and just it's like Alan Moore said, these characters are so unrealistic. The story doesn't apply to anyone. So, so fuck this book anyway.
Yeah, I mean, why are we even fucking reading this?
I think that's a record for the longest episode, the farthest into an episode someone has said "fuck this book."
And I'm surprised we didn't say it when they made Punisher black, for no reason other than to have him get beat up by cops.
The safe houses was the last straw. The black stuff is okay, but having the safe houses, fuck this book.
No, it's because when he became black, you're like, I want to see where this goes. Like, what's
a safe house? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's it. I'm done. But they go to where the safe house is, and there's a gang in hoods in front of it, and they're like, "Well, looky here, it's Mr. Cage. Save the neighborhood yet?" And Mr. Cage says, "Not yet, but I'll save this for you boys." And they both start beating the shit out of these hoods.
He makes two of them kiss, kinda.
Oh yeah, they bump heads, but
he takes one guy's head. He takes one guy's head and shoves it into the other guy's head,
and their lips are touching, kind of.
Yeah,
but as they walk in, they go to the hotel, and it's like a shitty, rundown place.
I want to point out my favorite piece of graffiti is here. Get high. High is spelled H-I.
I didn't notice that.
Pretty good.
He said, get friendly, get high. But when they go to try to use the elevator, but it's busted. And as they wait for the elevator, a bunch of hoods come up saying, "Yo, blood, no vacancies." And they have a bunch of people.
And these guys have guns now.
Yeah, these guys have guns.
Like assault rifles.
Yeah.
One guy's got a bat.
Yeah. And the guy has a bat that says, "Man, you were supposed to be waiting for some watch." Wait for some watch, dude. Wait, watching for some white dude. Punisher is like, "Oh, I want to shoot them." But Luke Cage is like, "Remember, no killing." And Punisher's like, "Yeah."
This is crazy to me because, like, there's 4 guys with guns and a guy with a bat. and there's Punisher and Luke Cage, and Punisher is like, I guess I'll get the guy with the bat, as if that's how that works in a fight. You're like, hey, 1v1 me real quick, and then you go fight the guys with the guns, as if they wouldn't just shoot him too.
Yeah. There's a scene at the end of this where everyone shoots Luke Cage instead of Punisher. Who's
it's crazy that he just keeps saying like, don't worry, like I'll fight the guys with guns, as if guns like don't have range, like you can't just shoot someone else.
Well, to be fair, this isn't brought up, I don't think, in the story at all, but Punisher always has bulletproof armor anyway. So.
Not now.
Yeah, but bulletproof armor doesn't make you invincible to bullets.
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
But in Punisher comics, it always does. So if you want to have a problem with this, have a problem with Punisher comics, it always makes him invincible in the comics.
Okay.
I have a problem with it. And you know what? I have a problem with Luke Cage, too. Guess what? Just because your skin is unbreakable doesn't mean bullets would knock you down.
He says they hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ow.
Yeah.
Ouch. But as they're fighting, Punisher takes out a gun and shoots one guy in the arm. And Luke Cage says, "Don't front me, Rook. I told you. Chill out, Cage. I hit him where I pointed."
Yeah, he shot him in the arm.
Yeah.
He's still breathing.
Yeah. And but Luke Cage says, "You that good all the time with that thing? Just something I picked up." And so they decide to take the stairs.
This is an actual important dynamic between the two, because Luke Cage is all about, like, nobody dies. I'm trying to teach people lessons, so I don't want to, like, kill the gangsters. I want to...
Well, I want to bring this up because this is why I found this concept interesting reading it again as an adult. Punisher is kind of like a conservative hero in a way, and I'm not saying that just my prejudged notion of him. Mike Baron, the writer of this, in the first Punisher trade ever made, Circle of Blood, I believe it's called. At the end, as an epilogue, afterward, whatever you want to call it, he writes saying the reason why Punisher and Dirty Harry and these characters became popular in the 80s and stuff like that was because we were sick and tired of being told that criminals were a byproduct of society and the system, and that we should have to try to rehabilitate people. And basically said we should just shoot these criminals down like the scum they are, basically. And that's why we like Punisher and Dirty Harry. And
I wouldn't say that's why we like them. Maybe don't speak for me, Sly.
No, but that's why conservatives like
I know,
him.
I'm kidding.
No, I think it actually does. Like, I found this book pretty refreshing when I was reading it because of how much stuff we've read where mass murderers are being let go and the hero's like, I'm doing the right thing. And this comic, he doesn't like try to assassinate people in their sleep, but when they're like, I'm a killer, he kills them instead.
But the Luke Cage is the opposite of that, because Luke Cage, being an ex-con, knows that anyone can get reformed, at least theoretically. So
yes, yeah. and I like that dynamic between them a lot, because he does say like, I'm proof that if I can come out of this shithole and be a better person, so can they.
And I just want to point out, one of the reasons why I think characters like the Punisher work is because in a world that's generally as morally black and white as comic books, where it's like these guys that we see are just bastards. All they do is sell drugs, and want to kill people. That there is.
Well, they're black and white in Punisher comics. They're not
I know. I'm saying, but like in the world that the Punisher exists in, you get a lot of that like kind of catharsis where you're like, these people deserve to suffer, and it doesn't always have the nuances that other characters might, and that's why I always have a hard time getting into the Punisher.
Well, that's why. That's another reason why we were saying like this feels more like a Luke Cage story. Punisher, in my opinion, works better as a way to compare to other characters.
Yes.
Like that's why Joe hates Microchip, Punisher's tech partner, but I always like Microchip because Microchip's a human one and Punisher's a sociopath killer. And same thing goes with any of Punisher's supporting cast. Like they're always the more human characters, and you contrast Punisher with them rather than big story about Punisher changing or evolving as a character.
Yeah, that statement you just had made me change what my recommendation is going to be.
Okay. All right, so they come downstairs, and as Ryan said, these people are just scum. You can they see all these people just killing each other down in the basement.
Literally, like there's just people stabbing each other. I don't know what's happening here.
I think they're strung out because when the guy turns to them, he says,
I wanted to spell this.
Okay, spell it out.
All right, this is for all you listeners at home. He says FARSHLNGRBSTFRKN.
Yeah, Farschelgenbertsfraken.
He's actually the Mr. McSispilk of this world. He's trying to set the rules, but Luke Cage just ignores him and punches him in the face.
In the Marvel universe, imps from the fifth dimension are machete-wielding crackheads.
Well, that's how edgy Marvel is, fucking edge boys. So Punisher beats Luke Cage beats the shit out of this guy, and they find the Punisher's stash, and Luke Cage punches through the wall to get through it, and it turns out all the money's gone. Only the guns are there.
He had to punch through the wall to get to it, and the money's gone.
Not only does he punch through the wall, but the machete guy, he also like chops his sword in half.
Yeah.
Like, he must be like really strong.
He's unbreakable.
He is unbreakable.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you strong.
It'd be kind of useless to have unbreakable skin and be like
A regular human.
yeah, and then a gunshot will make your innards explode.
Yeah, because I've always thought, like, when I first heard about Luke Cage way back when, I was like, oh, he's unbreakable, but it doesn't, like...
You're thinking about this the wrong way. The guy with the machete's really strong, because he swung so fast, he hit an unbreakable object and it broke.
Well, this is like one of those things when we talk about comics that people try to analyze comics saying, oh, scientifically it doesn't make sense. It's more about fulfilling an idea where if Luke Cage is supposed to be an unbreakable man, if you make him like not super strong, he's going to be weak, and you defeat the point.
Yeah, it's like if Colossus didn't have super strength, his steel body would just crumple under him.
Yeah, he would just lay down and die.
Yeah, exactly.
There's actually a comic about Colossus basically like I'm metal and I can't move, and it sucks. We'll get into that
The same one where he gets AIDS?
Sly, you told me he got AIDS once.
The mutant equivalent of AIDS, but not exactly AIDS.
Oh, mutant AIDS, I get it.
Yeah, maids, yeah. So then Luke Cage is like, oh, fuck this shit. I don't want guns, I want money. And Punisher's like, well, we only have guns, so eat shit. But
also, I like throughout the issue, the gang name changes from El Rukins to El Rubens back to El Rukins.
El Rubens, like the sandwich?
Yeah.
Well, they can't keep color straight, so they can't keep the name straight. No,
Yeah. Who are these guys? What gang are they fighting? I don't fucking know.
Maybe they just really like the sandwich.
all these gangs are the same. Like, it's fucking who gives a shit about the names. But basically, because Luke Cage says, "Oh, I helped you out. Now you don't have any money, so you have to help me out and clean up that lobby full of drug dealers that girl was telling me about." And Punch is like, "Let's rock, heaven or hell."
Yeah, all the drug guys are basically, they're trying to take over the building and make it their new headquarters. So they're squeezing out all of the civilians from the building.
Right.
Also, the Punisher puts on all this armor, but he takes a bunch of tape and covers up the skull so no one can tell he's the Punisher.
I did not realize that's what that was.
I love that.
So he just has a bulletproof vest covered in like garbage.
Yeah. So that ends issue 1.
All right, so issue 2 is Crackdown, and the cover is a bunch of people shooting Luke Cage, and they're also shooting Punisher too.
At point blank range with automatic weapons.
Yeah. Well, I guess as we established with the last issue, we just got to pretend this is not.
That's how vests work.
So it opens with Punisher going up to the building that the Elrukins command.
Are you sure? Don't you mean the El Rubens?
Yeah.
And one of the things that what I hate about comics is
everything.
No, it's in the narration he's giving. He already talks about how the Kingpin's been defeated and dethroned. I thought from the previous issue he's supposed to be getting revenge against Kingpin eventually, but then it's I don't know, Kingpin's gone. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
That might have happened in other books or something like that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I hate this a universe that expands over to other comics, and when something important happens to one character, you think it's well, now Punisher has to get revenge against Kingpin, but no, Kingpin's gone.
You don't know how many times Sly would give me a comic to read, and it would just interject in the middle of an issue oh, this is when the aliens had killed all of life on Earth. Read issue this of this story.
Sometimes I'm fine with a nudge, hey, this happened in the past, or this is happening right now, but when a character's related a lot to another character, and then they just vanish because they were defeated by another character.
That does happen from time to time.
In defense of that idea, if that didn't happen, then first of all, Kingpin became popular in Daredevil because he was the original Spider-Man villain, but he wasn't as interesting as a Spider-Man villain as he was as a Daredevil villain.
Also, even this story wouldn't exist because Luke Cage is a separate character.
Yeah, so you might say, oh, it sucks, but the story where Kingpin fucks up Punisher and Luke Cage teams up with him would not happen without that shared universe. So you have interesting stories possible only because the universe is shared.
Yeah. I think overall it's a net positive, but there are times that I'm this is unreadable.
Again, I'm fine with a shared universe. It's when big events happen to certain characters where it just felt like it would make more sense for the Punisher to get revenge against Kingpin instead.
Well, to be fair, this was late 80s, early 90s when stuff started getting so connected. You had to pick up multiple books at once, which was a flaw of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Before that and after that point, things got a lot better in terms of that.
Yeah.
All right. So Punisher's buying, and he's like, he just approaches these guys, and they're like, far enough money. And he's like, I'm looking to buy. Got that crack.
I'm looking to purchase some cocaine, sir.
Yeah. He wants crack.
He just says, do your buying down the block. All you'll find here is a world of trouble. And then...
So wait, are these guys even drug dealers? Because they're bad at it. If someone's like, I have money, give me drugs. And they're like, no thanks.
No, I guess they're assuming he's like, no one comes up to them and like, hey, you got crack?
Yeah, he's a narc. Because he's just like, hey, do you have crack? I want to buy.
Yeah, you never sell to people like that.
Don't look at my wire.
Yeah, Phil and Darryl are the expert crack buyers.
No, we're crack dealers.
Oh.
Yeah. We wouldn't sell to you guys.
Yeah, obviously.
This would be a perfect time for a ambulance or cop car to drive past Sly's house and have sirens coming for Phil.
So Punisher basically keeps trying to push on them and say like, hey, I want in on your operation. And they're like, no. So then he decides to start fighting some of them.
He says, what do you say, man? You bad enough? You bad enough to do to save the president? And he's just fighting them.
I don't get that reference.
You never play Bad Dudes?
Yeah, it's Bad Dudes.
Bad dudes?
Are you a bad enough dude to save the president?
Come on, Ryan.
And then at the end you save Ronald Reagan, and he's like, come have a cheeseburger with me or something.
Yeah.
It's a standard old meme.
Oh.
Ryan's a fucking he's no predator, he's no alien, he's no fucking bad dudes. What do you know, Ryan?
I don't know if Bad Dudes is that caliber.
Okay, anyway.
So he doesn't just start fighting with them, he destroys them.
And he brings up in the narration that he's not supposed to be killing because Luke Cage told him not to kill, and he's really having a problem with this.
Yeah, he's like, I have to beat up 4 guys with shotguns without killing them. It's kind of hard, but I'm pretty good at fighting. Yeah. And he's like, I've killed hundreds of men.
Also, I have a magic vest.
Yeah.
And then he goes upstairs, he gets hit in the stomach with like a gun butt.
Why does the coloring change here?
Because it's dark inside.
It's like a powder blue though.
Yeah, everyone's like teal.
Have you ever watched a movie in the 80s?
No, I've never watched the movie.
This is day for night shot, basically. Where they have a daytime shot and they color it blue to say, oh, it's nighttime.
Okay, alright.
So then they frisk Punisher again just to make sure he's not carrying anything with him. And they decide to let him go meet the big head boss because Punisher's such a tough, cool guy. Yeah. And it's just some white dude sitting in a chair and he says, welcome, my brother. What?
My brother.
What?
Bro, welcome, bro.
What can we do for
Phil
you?
used to always complain about how randomly bolded words show up. And this one, brother's bolded, but only the first half of it.
Yeah, it's literally my brother. And he's not just like a white dude in a chair. He looks like a white news anchor.
Yeah.
Not wearing socks in a chair.
Yeah, why is he not wearing socks?
And he's just like, hello, brother. So he's a black guy.
So the bodyguard of this white dude says, Mr. Rudy, crackhead here, says he wants to buy. And Punisher says that his people took down the Kingpin. He heard about the deal that the Rukins came up with, and he's like, I got a $2,000 bankroll just to pique your interest. And the white guy goes, maybe, and it bolds the B. And
maybe.
Let's see the color of your story.
Let's see the color of your story.
Yeah. It does this weird thing where like Punisher like blames it that he got his money stolen by one of the guys that beat him up outside, so then they beat up that guy.
I think it's the guy that frisked him.
It's the guy that frisked him and like broke his rib or something.
Yeah, because he's like, the money, it's right here. Wait, no, he took it. He's Alex Mercer. And then all the other guys start beating up that guy.
Yeah. Well, they break his arm. And then smiling news anchor here is like, hello, I encourage respect for me or I will kill you.
Also, the best line, Rook, you seem astute, but you're also a crackhead.
And then he gives him a crack pipe. And he's like, here, smoke up.
Yeah, he's like, you're a crackhead? Here.
And then I didn't understand what was going on here.
He says like, crackheads are always punished. Now prove you're a crackhead.
And I like how Punisher's like, I can't.
Yeah, it cuts to outside, and then Luke Cage throws down a smoke bomb.
Yeah, like gas grenades.
Yeah, it's just like, here you go. And then Punisher...
I think it's supposed because they're prepared that he will be in a bind eventually, so to start throwing out grenades at a certain point where he doesn't show up yet.
He says, yeah, this is my people. So then Mr. Rudy's like, that's it. Wrench this uppity.
Oh, no, the guy's name is Wrench. He goes, that's it, Wrench.
Yeah,
ice this uppity.
So then Wrench shoots the guy that frisks Punisher because Punisher uses him a body shield, and he takes him out the window and lands on the guy that frisked him onto a car.
This is an Austin Powers gag. when he uses a girl as a body shield and then jumps out the window and lands on her.
Yeah.
Well, this is before Austin Powers. This
I
is
know.
after.
Austin Powers got it from the Punisher's a black guy story.
Yeah.
And I like how he, like, that's just the end of that little arc, and he goes back to Luke Cage, and he's like, I know I wasn't supposed to kill anyone, but I did jump out of the window with that guy and land on him. And he's like, this is an interesting scene, actually. 'Cause
I
he's
like this scene a lot. This is my high point of the whole book.
Luke Cage is like, not by my rules. I'm hired to clean up this building, but I ain't washing it in blood. No more brothers dying for that stuff.
Brother, why don't you wake up, Cage? This ain't about race.
And of course, race baiting Cage says,
No, isn't this Punisher saying
"No,
this?
No, this is Luke Cage saying this.
he actually got the coloring right this time."
So
Okay.
Punisher says, brother, why don't you wake up, Cage? This ain't about race.
And then Luke Cage says, FBI shows most inner city crimes committed by blacks on blacks. Movies and TV still hype brothers as the street thug, the hood, the man to fear. You know that look in the eyes of strangers, that feeling. See, I originally thought this was Punisher, and I'm like, how is he claiming that he's been like stereotyped? I was like, what an asshole.
You see, even Phil is like, they both look the same. Oh, they
No,
all
I'm
look the same.
not. Yeah, fuck you.
But then he says, it ain't about race. No, it's about image. You knowing who you are when no one else does.
Oh, and you know that because you're black?
He says, I know because I was one of them, a hood.
And he says, Cage says, I'm proof there's a way out and nobody has to die.
And I just love this because the Punisher, as like a white guy in disguise, is like, how come you got to make everything about race?
Yeah.
And Luke Cage is basically like, well, society tells us that black people are criminals and thugs and hoods and that there's no way out. Like what Sly was saying about, like, you know, society's viewpoints at this point where, like, criminals should just be killed and, like, there's no redemption. And he's saying, like, I lived it, and I'm basically proof of concept to what Sly was saying before about Luke Cage. And I love that the white guy is like, how come you're making about race? And he's like, no, it's always been about race.
Yeah.
And it's cool because it strengthens Luke Cage's convictions where you're like, oh, now I can, like, sympathize with you more because you're not just doing this just because you're trying to be a nice guy. It's like you're trying to change people's perceptions on how they see gang violence in the city. That's like sometimes some people have to resort to it or feel like they have to resort to it even though there's another option, and Luke Cage is trying to give them that other option. He's trying to show it to them by not killing them, by saying, like, you can do something else, don't do this.
Yeah, and this is when I was like, this book's good, this isn't bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's good except for the fact that they had to make Punisher black to introduce this story.
Yeah.
Which still, like, it would have been kind of cool to have Punisher running around as a white guy, still feeling like, this isn't about race, I just want to, like, kill thugs and stuff.
Well, the Punisher being black is the thing that made everyone read the stories, to be fair.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
It's why we're reading it.
Yeah, it's why we're reading it. So, after that scene, there's these girls standing around and talking about basically the drug war that's been going on and trying to protect their families. And then a bunch of just guys come and start hustling them.
I know about gang colors, like you wear certain bandanas and stuff, but this guy literally has a jacket that has Rukin written on it.
They all do.
Like,
They all do.
oh, they do, yeah. So the gangs make up like Letterman jackets now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no, like, one identifying mark other than Rukins. So then they're gonna kill them because they know they're working with Nic Cage.
They also have the most early 90s haircuts.
One thing I find funny is Luke Cage shows up, and the way they drew him for this one page, he looks like he's balding.
Yeah, they drew him with the haircut of the guy he's holding.
Yeah. It actually did.
Man, he really is like, oh, they all look the same to me.
His power is to take people's haircuts as he touches them, like Rogue.
Yeah.
And he's holding him up and he's, like, absorbing his hair.
So Luke Cage goes and saves these people because, like, these people are getting hassled because they know Luke Cage and they believe that they're the ones that sick Luke Cage on that lobby that's over on the drug dealers. And Punisher takes his gun out to try to shoot one of them that's running away, and Luke Cage puts his hand in front of him and catches the bullet, saying, "Yo, chill."
Yeah.
And Punisher's mad because he's like, damn it, Cage, you don't get it. In a war, sometimes there's no other way. And Luke Cage is saying, but usually there is. These are kids, and it don't take a bullet to stop them.
Yeah.
And I like that, too, because I know we brought up The Wire a bunch, or I've recommended it in the past, but, like, I like when fiction shows you that, like, because so many things are just like, look, thugs in the inner city in this gang are, like, just sociopaths, but a lot of times, most of the time, they just start as kids, like, running drugs or something, and we don't get to see them in that position. We only see them committing the crime. And
Yeah.
Luke Cage, though, has the perspective to be like, no, these are like probably like 13 and 14-year-olds. So
And it especially stands out in a Punisher book where, like, usually you read the Punisher because you want to watch him kill criminals. That, like, having Luke Cage give this lesson to the Punisher, I feel like he's also giving it to, like, hey, Punisher fans, maybe this isn't always the best way.
Which is especially funny because in the Punisher story after this, it's just about him killing guys in the supermarket
Yeah.
that deserve to die because they're all thugs. White thugs, but thugs.
Well, Mike Barron went back to writing what he knows best.
Yeah, he's like, I really just want to do a story where he murders criminals.
So they beat up these guys, and then
Punisher runs off to catch the kid.
yeah,
And during this, they have Luke Cage is describing to these guys about basically just not killing these people. And I really like the line where he says, they're a bunch of thugs buying into a big money dream as a way out, watching the rollers on a path to glory of poverty. Seeing the big cars in their bank makes you want it bad.
I like when it says rollers. They have to have explain big money gang members.
That's the one word they define. They're like, for people that don't know what rollers are, they're big money gang members. But everything else
That's fair because that's the only one word I didn't know. I didn't know the rollers.
I didn't know that.
And he says, seeing the big cars in their bank makes you want it bad. All you gotta do is hawk poison to your brother or your mom's. Maybe take down your grandfather for his social security to show you got it going on. He's just trying to explain to the reader, basically, that these people are in such a position that this is kind of like a normal life to them, that they want to prove their worth.
I like how he left out the best part where he says, "You're going all right, but don't kid yourself, homie. You're going down."
I can't promise y'all no brighter future, but know this. For every brother that makes the money, there's 2 more with a new habit to support. And there's 10 more just like him in the prisons and the graveyards. And while this is happening, Punisher is beating someone up.
Beating the kid up that ran away.
Yeah, but he doesn't kill him.
No, he doesn't kill him.
And then as they split ways, Punisher hands his gun to the woman that was attacked.
Yep, and he gives a gun to a single mother to protect herself.
They go have a meeting planning their next assault.
Back in their powder blue land.
Yeah.
And then next day, they attack by running to the front door. Luke Cage does.
Yep, and
I love this terrible fucking joke where they knock on the door, and they're like, "Who's that?" And he says, "Buster." And then he busts through the door and says, "Buster, head open if you don't get out."
Yeah.
And Punisher in the narration bubbles is saying, like, this is not how I would have planned it.
Yeah, Punisher's like, I would always, like, hit tactically. Like, why would anyone ever do this? And then he's like, oh, but he has bulletproof skin, so, like, it's fine, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just, I love that idea of someone without any superpowers being like, this is the stupidest plan, but if you have superpowers, like, it works.
Yeah. And Punisher runs into a kid who has a gun on him, and Punisher spares his life.
Yep. Which was like a good character development.
Also, which I thought that was a little crazy because, not just sparing his life, but this kid did try to shoot Punisher dead, but his gun, like, jammed. Like, you see it click, right?
Yeah.
That could just be him.
Oh, like cocking the gun or something.
Yeah, I think it's cock and gun.
Okay. Because that was like, he just tried to shoot you in the head. All right.
And Punisher says, this is a war. In a war, you can't afford, well, maybe sometimes there is another way. Or maybe there's such a thing as a bulletproof attitude.
And they're trying to basically, like, they're in this apartment complex, and all the tenants are
It's the same one
hiding.
that Mr. Rudy's in, the white dude.
Right. So the tenants are all hiding somewhere, and Punisher's basically like, I gotta go get the tenants out. But Mr. Rudy is like, go kill the tenants or something. Or no, go take them as hostages so we can have leverage over Cage.
Yeah, and then so he sent his right-hand man, Wrench, who has a wrench.
Yeah. I didn't even catch that.
He's like, you're my special bodyguard. Don't take a gun. Take a wrench.
Well, you know, it's like it's like James Bond. You got to use the most impractical object, like a hat, to fight instead.
Yeah, he's a very, like, gimmick henchman.
I like this. He jumps through the window at Punisher, and then Punisher, like, goes on the floor and he, like, kicks him away with his legs, and then in the next frame, he just grabs a little girl as a hostage. Like, all according to Kikaku.
And the guy says, "Back or I eat little sister."
Yeah, what? But then, so he says, like, in this broken, like, back or I eat little sister, and then he talks in full sentences after that.
Yeah.
"Lady, you should have thought of all this when you pulled the heat down."
Now call off Cage's goods and the girls free, maybe, after my boys are through with y'all.
And then Punisher tries to shoot him through the door as he's escaping, but he shoots his allies instead.
The bad guy's allies.
Yeah, the bad guy's allies.
Right.
How he just saved, like, he just didn't shoot a kid in the last scene to spare his life. And now Punisher's thought bubbles are, Cage keeps wanting me to keep these goons alive, some misplaced sense of salvation, but they choose their lives just as I choose to end them.
Pull yourself up by your bootstraps or die.
Yeah.
It seems like they're going for, like, the Punisher will learn that maybe there's, another way, but also it's a Punisher comic, so he has to kill a bunch of guys.
Also, it's worth noting in this scene, like, this girl is being kidnapped, like, taken away, and they said they're going to do terrible things to her. So I guess in this moment, he's like, well, I don't have a choice now. I got to fucking kill these guys.
Yeah.
That's true.
And also, you could view that previous scene as him trying another way, and then as soon as he does that, next time he does that, he gives the villain an opportunity to grab a kid.
Yeah. He should have just shot the guy as he jumped through the window.
I like to think that guy on the other side of the door is the guy he spared. So he's just like, fuck you, just kidding.
Oh, yeah, that he just kills him.
Also, you like it? This gun is 2 barrels.
Yeah. I don't know.
I was like wondering, I'm like, what is this? Is this like a special Punisher weapon?
Yeah, it's like an assault rifle with 2 barrels.
But not like next, like, it's really weird.
Yeah.
It looks like he's holding 2 guns.
Yeah, that's what
I thought he was for a second.
So, it cuts back to Luke Cage, who's fighting his way to Mr. Rudy. And then Mr. Rudy's now wrenches at his side, and Mr. Rudy has a gun to the little girl's head.
I also want to point out that Luke Cage calls everyone boys.
Oh, yeah. Boyees. Boys.
So the guy has the girl hostage, and he's like, oh, now that I have her hostage, I will have him wrench beat the shit out of you while you do nothing, basically.
Yeah, it's a real dark villain move. So it's
Did
just
you guys
like...
notice that this girl that got kidnapped is the same girl from issue 1 that was like, there's all these guys in our lobby.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
Aisha.
And he's like, I'm gonna shoot her in the stomach, so she'll die slowly if you don't listen to me.
Yeah, he's super evil. So he's like, what will break first? Your...
Head or your convictions.
Now,
Yeah.
I have a question for Sly. So, Luke Cage is getting hit in the head with a wrench, and he's like bleeding and stuff. Isn't he unbreakable?
Yeah, he should be getting concussions and stuff and not, like, bleeding, probably.
Yeah, okay. That's why I wasn't sure.
I would wonder that too. I was like, yeah, it's confusing, but
I just assume a wrench was strong enough to break... A wrench with a wrench was strong enough
Stronger
to...
than a gun?
yeah, he gets shot constantly.
Yeah.
You don't know how strong wrench is. Or wrench.
Yes.
Yeah.
He took the fucking machete guy.
Punisher does something great, and he also jumps through a window, too, to come save Luke Cage.
But I don't get this, where Luke Cage is giving a speech where he's like,
Yeah, I'm gonna show you for the scum you are, lousy street thugs who would kill a little girl for $1. Maybe I ain't the one to take you down. Then Punisher jumps through the window and says, but I ain't alone.
I'm positive that the letterer can't tell the difference between the two of them either.
Yeah, it has to be.
because I was so confused. I was like, how could he be jumping through?
Oh, yeah. No, it must be, because it's supposed to be Luke Cage saying I ain't alone. It's
Yeah.
It's funny because this whole comic arc has like a somewhat like nuanced message at points where they're talking about inner city crime and stuff like that. But the ultimate irony here is that the writers and the colorists, they see a bunch of black people and they're like, I don't know who's who, so I don't know.
I don't know if it's necessarily the writers. I think the guy that
No,
the
why would they make the speech bubble?
Well, writers don't letter. Letterers do, Phil.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know.
So the letterers are racist, the art colorist is racist.
Yeah, I think the writers were on point. It's just everyone else on the team were all like, it's just a bunch of black people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
So Punisher kicks the gun out of the hostage, the white guy's hand and saves Aisha. And Wrench goes to fight him, and Punisher says, Wrench, you said you were hungry earlier. Bon appetit. And he starts shooting into...
Out of both of his barrels of his assault rifle. Yeah.
Maybe the bottom one's like a shotgun add-on, yeah.
Yeah, it probably is.
And so he kills that guy.
Yeah.
And he says, I was a Punisher. I've seen the same disease before. And found only one best final cure. And as he says that, the guy rips off his shirt, revealing the Punisher logo.
He rips the garbage off of his vest.
I love this too. He's like, time for the final solution. And you're like, Punisher, I don't know. This is... So Luke Cage is like, you don't need to kill them. And he's like, yeah, I did, actually.
Yeah, fuck you. I did need to kill him.
And he's like, it's going to be real hard to sell a story with the cops, but it turns out they do it off panel, so it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
He's like, well, it was a hostage situation. We can just say, like you had to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
It must be different cops than pulled over Punisher last issue and beat the shit out of him because he swerved a little.
I want to point out, Luke Cage looks at Punisher and says, you all right? You look a little pale. And Punisher says, look, I think you ought to know something. And before he can say, the woman they save shows up and thanks Punisher. So he's like awkwardly trying to admit, like, I'm actually white. I'm actually not one of you. But he doesn't know how to confront that issue.
Before we take this relationship to the next level, I want you to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not.
I'm secretly white.
So the last page is about like these two mobsters meeting, and basically,
Well, one guy says, I have info that the Punisher is secretly a black guy now.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, really? If you could prove it, we'll be in business.
yeah, and they shake hands.
Next month, fade to white.
Yeah, that's that story's called Fate to White.
Yeah, I thought that was like, oh, that's a little.
That's a little weird.
Sure.
So, issue 3.
He's back. Fade to white. And this intro panel is where they say the title. It shows him as a white guy Punisher with dual wielding guns, and then the panel below is black guy Punisher. And when you compare the two, it's like she really didn't just change his skin color. Like he's a different guy.
But it's like wearing off. He's slowly turning white, which is what that line at the end of the previous issue was indicating, that he's slowly turning white and you can't help it.
Basically, this whole issue is like Michael Jackson's later life. Where he's slowly transitioning to a white man, but it looks weird.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not plastic surgery. It was definitely like natural.
Yeah. Also, fun fact, the cover is drawn by Joe Quesada, who goes on to become Marvel's editor-in-chief.
Oh, Joe Quesadilla.
And he also did Divisive Issue's favorite, Guardian Devil.
Oh, great. So, we're back at this meeting where this weird-haired guy...
This guy looks like kind of like Eraserhead with blue hair.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And he's like, I don't think Punisher's actually dead. I think this black guy in Chicago is him. And he's like, yeah, just give me some money and I can prove it.
How did he find that out?
He's like, I had surveillance on only 78 of his safe houses.
Oh, wait,
paid
they
off.
do explain later how he knows. I just remembered.
So right now what we know is like, this guy went for one of Punisher's safe houses, so he could be related.
Something weirder happens where he says like, hey, if you can catch Punisher and prove that the black guy's the Punisher, I'll pay you. But if not, and then he takes a baseball bat and just starts breaking the Eraserhead's TVs.
Yeah.
It might be his own, because he's the guy coming into his office for meetings. People do shit like that. Rich people do, like rich gangsters in movies and stuff. They'll break their own shit because
That's like a show of wealth and strength.
Yeah, they're like, I could buy another one.
Like, even if you think it's stupid, that's something like they do in movies like Death Wish and Dirty Harry, which Punisher is clearly trying to go for.
Yeah.
It just seems so excessive because we got introduced to this guy like one frame of the last issue, so he's not like intimidating, and him doing this just comes off as like manic.
He also looks almost exactly like the head of the last guy.
Mr. Rudy!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like same suit and everything.
He just looks a little bit fatter, that's it.
Yeah, he's thicker.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Mentally and physically.
Yeah. And then we cut back to Punisher choking one guy and kicking another guy in the stomach.
And now he just looks like tan.
Yeah, he looks really...
Kinda.
He looks just like a white guy.
It's very like faded.
He describes himself. War's over, but the fighting goes on. He keeps ordering nobody dies. Nobody tells them. He can afford to. He's the hero for hire. I'm just a man. A soldier without a war. A white black man. Like that last one seems kind of out of place.
It's so funny that Punisher keeps like thinking of himself as a black man.
I know the plight of the black man.
as he's beating them up. And wanting to kill them, but can't.
Well, that's why next issue he goes back to thinking the way he was, because when he was black, he started thinking like a black man.
So he looks like a gray... Who said it before that he looks like kind of like a Frankenstein monster?
That would be me.
Yeah, he's just like a gray guy.
Yeah, he's like Grey Goose.
Yeah, he's like Grey Goose. And he's basically just been working for the Luke Cage beating up like criminals, but I mean, he like there's a panel of him like destroying a guy's face like with repeated punches.
It looks like he's slamming the guy's face into his long narration boxes.
Yeah. But I think he's kneeing his face, I think.
Yeah.
So he's like destroying these people to give them a second chance. And
it's them basically like recapping a lot of the stuff we've already seen. And then
Luke Cage shows up.
Yeah, Luke Cage is there. And then something that was weird because like this wasn't shown in the other issues is some guy comes up, some like Swedish guy or something, because he's like, Mr. Cage, I want to thank you for what you're doing for us, for all of us.
They're trying to show like, look, he's not just helping black people.
That doesn't do well because he turns to the guy and he says, I don't want your thanks, pal. I'm not doing favors. I'm running a business same as you. I'm doing this because it's good for business. Remember that.
That's how I feel. It was weird. Is like there's all like this kind of like pent up aggression, or like he's not worthy of the congratulations. Or
Yeah, I was kind of confused by this.
compliments, because then they have Aisha and her mother, the mother that Punisher gave the gun to. She shows up again. It's like, hey, why don't you come over for dinner for saving us? And then they have this panel of like Luke Cage looking real crazy. It's like, lady, you paid me for a job and I did it. That's as far as I'm willing to take this. And Punisher's like, hey, Cage, cool it.
Well, even in the Netflix show, they emphasize that he has trouble being called a hero.
But like the last 2 issues, we never saw any of this kind of like him being mad at people he was saving.
Yeah.
Well, that before. That was in the process of him saving. This is like after the congratulations. Like, oh, thank you for saving me yesterday. And he's like, fuck off.
I'm on Darryl's side. It kind of felt like it was out of nowhere.
I understand the rationalization that, like, you know, he has this pent up aggression that, you know, he feels like he maybe is not worthy or something like that. But you have to lead into it a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
So we move on and we find that fucking weird, creepy guy who's like, I'm pretty sure that black guy is Punisher, in a car.
Yeah, Eraserhead.
He's like an Asian guy too. We never clarified that.
Oh yeah, and he's with some random redhead, and he's like, "That's him, isn't it?" And he's like, "Oh, he's weaponless lately, under strict orders." And then so we get an idea that they're gonna try and jump him.
He also calls Luke Cage a spook.
Oh yeah, great.
I was thinking like the detective or something.
What? That's detective.
I was trying to I didn't go the racist way.
You're trying to think when Superboy pointed out the, I think, Kung Fu guy, and he's like, the yellow people.
Yeah, because people call like agents and spies sometimes like spooks, you know? I was thinking that way. Okay.
So naive, Phil.
Well, we also had a cop say maybe Coons got his tongue 2 issues ago from the same writer.
Yeah.
You're right.
I want to point out, next scene is Punisher getting his stuff ready to leave. And Luke Cage says, "You're running again, but you can't run forever, man." And Punisher says, "Physician, heal thyself."
And Luke Cage's like, "What?"
Yeah, he's like, "What?"
And Punisher's like, "You should listen to yourself sometimes. You know, it seems like I'm running, but you actually are."
Yeah, Mr. I'm not Power Man.
Yeah.
Own up to your yellow costume, man. It was lame, but you have to live with it.
And Luke Cage just starts smashing all his plates and stuff. And he's like, "You don't know where I've been, lost what I lost. You don't know how it feels to get the rug ripped out from you again and again, to lose everything," even though Punisher does.
Well, he doesn't know Punisher's backstory.
I know. It's just funny that Punisher's just like, "Oh, whatever, man."
How does Luke Cage not notice how white he's becoming?
I know.
He must. Pretty weird. He just doesn't bring it up to him.
Well, it's an awkward conversation. Like, "Hey, dude, I know you've been acting more white lately." He's like, "What you mean, brother?" Like, "Oh, no, I just mean like your skin's getting paler. You call me not black enough?" And, you know, it'd be an awkward moment.
I guess.
Yeah, that's what all black people would do, right, Sly?
Yeah, exactly.
They would say, "You call me not black enough?"
You call me Uncle Tom, man? And start fighting.
So, Punisher's on his own, walking through the street saying, they tell me the war's over. Where do old soldiers go after the war? And then he sees a woman being harassed by 4 guys, and he jumps in to, beat them up. But it turns out it's a trap. And
I want to point out this dialogue, though. He says, "My change that made some things clearer. See your individual past the color to the crime. Crime doesn't have a color, neither does punishment. Important thing is to keep your eyes open." So even Punisher's like, maybe I was a little bit racist before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he also does say, like, still gotta just do the same thing I was always doing. Punish them equally.
Yeah,
like,
kill everyone equally. But what this trap is it's him running down an alley to help this woman from being harassed, and a car, like a semi with a cargo container, backs up behind him.
Yeah, fast enough to catch him off guard.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the back of it, like, lowers down instead of opens up, and then a net just fires out and catches the Punisher.
And Luke Cage is like, "Hey, you okay down there?" And he's not okay. And they basically have an RPG that aimed at Luke Cage.
Not only do they capture him in a net, but while he's tied up completely, like, totally curled up in this net, they're just punching him, like, everywhere. Like, all over his whole body.
Yeah, they're just trying to, like... I mean, I guess you would do that. If you know that he's really dangerous, you just beat the shit out of him to get him to break and stop.
It just looks so funny how, like, tied up he is. And they're just like, fuck you.
He's also a black man.
Yeah.
So they kidnap Punisher, and Luke Cage tries to follow. They shoot a bazooka at him from the truck.
And blow up his car.
Yeah.
And now we wake up, and Punisher is in a dark room.
No, he's still in the truck. The dark truck.
Oh yeah, he's in the truck. And they work like pros, but they do make mistakes. In the dark, they've made a big one. Foreshadowing. And then he says 2. And then they push him out, and he's just in like big like spotlights.
His arms are just tied up behind him. He's no longer in the net.
Give me a second.
What? What is going on?
We're waiting for Sly, so I'm just mumming.
Wait, did Sly leave?
He said, "Give me a minute."
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that either.
I thought everyone just stopped.
I was just doing what you were doing. I thought we were still like just doing the podcast.
I know. I was just waiting.
I really want Sly to keep this as a blooper at the end.
Sorry about that.
You have to listen back to what just happened.
They didn't realize you were gone, but I did. So I was going.
And then Darryl started doing it, and we didn't know what was happening.
What?
So they throw him out of the truck, and he's no longer in the net. He's just, his arms are tied up, and
they got these like bright spotlights on him,
so he can't see anything but the lights. And they're like, They call you Rook now, huh? Cute, nice alias for Frank Castle, man I'm looking for. Make it easy on yourself and us. We need it from your mouth. So they need to prove that it's him.
Why do they have to prove it? They're not like cops or anything.
No, but I think
he has to prove it to the other mob boss that's going to give him money.
Oh, okay.
Eraserhead does.
And they're like, are you the Punisher or just another psycho? They start beating the shit out of him, and then he flashbacks to when his family is killed, or just another dead man. And then they pull out the plastic surgeon from the beginning.
Yeah, the beautiful model.
Yeah.
Yep.
The beautiful druggy model.
And they're like, this is taking too long. Can you recognize him?
And Punisher basically, to spare her betraying him, he admits he's the Punisher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, leave her alone. I'm it. I'm the Punisher. The lights all go off, and you see like 20 guys in black outfits and hoods with guns.
Oh, also, when we first see the girl in the panel, if you look closely, he's somehow holding a gun, Frank.
They do explain that the woman, we forgot to mention that the woman gave him back her gun that he gave to her.
Yeah, but like...
And no, they do mention like they made a mistake frisking him.
But like he's tied up. How it has to be like right by his hands.
And maybe it was. Punisher's very resourceful.
I see. I guess.
The more important thing is after basically they're like kill him now. Punisher uses a gun to turn behind and shoot the guys, and he says, "Can't touch this."
And while saying that, he rolls over, shoots Eraserhead square in the forehead.
Yeah.
And from behind.
Yeah, and then just starts rolling around and shooting other men.
It's so crazy because there's literally like 20 guys here with guns, and he's rolling on the ground tied up, shooting everyone.
That's just in like the Netflix show. He's on the ground rolling around and shooting everyone like blam, blam, blam. Rolling around, speed of sound. Got places to go.
Right as he runs out of ammo, guess who...
Heads up, boys!
Yeah.
Yeah, Luke Cage crashes just through the wall. And then everyone, instead of shooting the Punisher, they all shoot Luke Cage, the invincible man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the guy with the bat, the mobster with the bat that goes after Punisher.
Yeah, he's like, melee only, 1v1 me.
Yeah,
Like,
we have to make this fair.
so much of this comic has had that, where they're like knife fight. Like, they don't want to bring in guns for the guy who can't resist bullets.
Again, this is very common in 80s action movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It really is. I remember as a kid, even when you see like Steven Seagal movies or
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, they're just always, they don't want to shoot the guy who doesn't have a gun, so they're like, fight me, fisticuffs.
Yeah.
Um,
In Commando, the guy actually confronts him with a gun, and Schwarzenegger's like, "What? You a pussy?" And he's like, "I don't need a gun." And just starts fighting him, and Schwarzenegger kicks his ass.
I do love when at least they address it, where they're like, I'm a man enough to fight you 1v1.
Yeah.
But in this situation, it seems like they wouldn't. But whatever.
Yeah.
So he's about to beat the shit out of Punisher with the bat, because he's still tied up, and the prostitute junkie plastic surgeon jumps on him and is like, no! And that gives him enough time to take a knife, cut himself free, and stab this guy in the chest.
Like in the heart.
And I love this too, where he says, he makes it so clear. Acts that make him what he is, making me what I am. Again, going back to this thing that like people have a nature that is, it can't change. vile acts deserving of punishment, of one kind, one way, in blood, forever. As he stabs him through the heart.
And the guy says, "Stupid fuck, why?"
Because I have to. Because I can.
And then, just like with Mr. Rudy, he pulls down Punisher's shirt and reveals the logo.
Skull.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by this point, he's just a fucking white guy.
And also, when he pulls down the shirt, there's a big, like, knife scratch in it, and then in the next panel, the knife scratch is gone.
Also, his hair grew out.
I was
backwards.
just about to say, when he got captured in the car, his hair was just like it was when he was a black guy, but when he gets rolled out into this little area, he's back to complete Punisher hair. Like, I don't know what you'd call it, but...
But then the fucking plastic surgeon's like, your treatment's wearing off. You're very handsome now that you're white.
Yeah, I love that too. They're like, wow, you're white. You look pretty good.
I didn't notice when you're black, but now that you're white again.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Then he drops the surgeon off in the back of the truck and then jumps out as Punisher with a knife and like a
An Uzi just like shooting this guy, stabbing this guy. He's like, back to the war. Then it goes to the Sunday morning after.
And then Luke Cage says, "So you're the Punisher. Nice disguise. Till you lost your tan." And Punisher says, "Had you fooled."
And then the cops are coming.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta go, but take care of the plastic surgeon. And he's like, what does he say? Stay on the right side of the law.
Don't make me come after you.
Yeah, and he says, like, I saved you twice, you owe me. And Punisher's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And I love how he says that to Luke Cage, too, where he's like, you are a black guy living in the ghetto. Don't go back to crime.
Yeah.
Well, earlier Luke Cage said to him, don't make me come after you."
Yeah, but he does say, stay on the right side of the law here. Like
He is.
He's implying he's going to be a criminal again.
Since he turns white, he loses empathy for black people.
Yeah, I don't know what it's like anymore.
This is why I hate the ending, is because you had such an interesting dynamic with the two working together, and Punisher's like, I like to kill people, and he kept abiding by Luke Cage's code when he was black, and then he turns white, and he's like, whatever, I don't owe you anything, I don't care about you, I'm the Punisher, I'm a white dude, I'm in charge.
Maybe it's deep, and this is why people can't identify with black people's issues.
Yeah.
Because they're not black.
Because empathy doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I like how his last lines of dialogue are just like, long as there's crime preying on innocence, in the swill of corruption, I will be. There'll always be a need for a Punisher. God help us all.
So he learns nothing.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of segues us into the recap page. But the one thing I want to say...
Are we calling the recap page again?
What?
Are we calling it the recap page again? Or are we going to say, does it deserve to exist? Or do you regret reading this?
I don't care.
Why don't we call it the does this deserve to reading this recap? Right, guys?
So before we pass judgment, I want to...
Guilty!
God, guys.
Guilty!
It's pretty good. Before we pass judgment, why don't we just call it that?
Yeah, before we pass judgment...
Before we pass gas.
Thing that I want to point out is I really feel like Mike Barron's plot is great.
Yeah.
I feel like the dialogue is kind of what ruins it for me.
I agree.
Because so much of the dialogue misses the point, and I'm so shocked by that, because you would think it would be the other way around, that the Luke Cage writer is the one who brings the nuance, and the plotter is the one that like is just doing the regular Punisher story. But it's kind of the total other way around.
I think the dialogue at points can still be
At
nuanced
points.
and interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean, with that whole conversation between Luke Cage and Punisher in issue 2, I thought that was good writing.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the dialogue's necessarily bad, but I feel like a lot of the dialogue kind of contradicts what they're going for, especially at the end.
Yeah, but that's not just the dialogue. The plotting there is there too. Like,
I feel like that was the Punisher guy saying, we need him to be Punisher again. That's why it contradicts it. Because the best parts were, like, in the last issue, where it's Luke Cage talking and giving his ideas.
guess.
And I feel like that's all Mark McLaurin. Whereas the other stuff is just the Punisher guy, where it's just like, we kind of need him to kill everybody.
That's very fair.
It's always back to the same problem where Punisher can't really grow. He has to stay the Punisher.
I mean, is that just a Punisher thing? I feel like a lot of comic book characters have
Yeah, a
this
lot of
problem.
superheroes have to stay with their convictions.
there are like a lot of limits where you can't develop from in certain cases, but never as strongly as a Punisher. Punisher really can never grow, like, at all.
Because once he accepts anything about his family's death, he stops being the Punisher.
Yeah. because like you could say like Spider-Man always has to be Spider-Man, and he'll go back to being Spider-Man. But he grew from high school, grew to college. Like he became a teacher and stuff like that. Like everyone else has experiences that change who they are and how they develop. But Punisher will always just be a guy who wants to go to war and fight criminals forever in the black and white world.
Yeah. Either way, I feel like it might. I'm not necessarily saying like it's definitely Mike Baron or Mark Milloran. I feel like there's some kind of disconnect in the story. That there's a lot of scenes that I'm like, do you realize the point you made 10 pages ago?
Yeah, I agree.
To me, I feel like the disconnect is whoever was trying to make the Punisher still be the Punisher. Because there's almost a point in there where it's like, this could have been a cool story about a guy that's actually black and just wants to like get revenge and kill people. And Luke Cage trying to teach him like the right way to act.
Yeah, definitely.
But instead, because he has to be the Punisher, it's like, well, he can't listen to everything.
Yeah, one of the worst parts of this book is the fact that Punisher is in it. It has to become a black man and then go back to being a white man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like the worst part.
I do also think one of the parts that really stands out as shitty to me is how, like, I guess editorial's fault that, like, the colorist and the letterer and the artist have no idea who anybody's supposed to be.
It really does detract from
that.
it.
It pulled me out of it so much because, like, the cops beat up Luke Cage instead of, like, whatever. They just switch a lot.
Yeah.
And it makes it, like...
Or when Punisher busts through the window finishing Luke Cage's sentence.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's
exactly.
like, I know what you're about to say.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens when you become black. You get a sense dots skill.
Yeah.
They all know each other.
So, Phil first. Are you glad you read this?
Yeah, I liked it, actually. It was pretty dumb at points, and I complained probably a lot throughout this podcast. But as I was reading it, I was pretty into it. I liked the dynamic between the two. I recognize that Punisher's inner monologues are cheesy sometimes, but I enjoy them a lot. I'm not at all sad I read this.
Yeah, Punisher's inner monologues are kind of like the grim, dark stuff, but not taken overboard.
It's not too bad, I don't think.
So, Darryl, you agree?
Yeah, I like the story. I like what Phil said, the dynamic between the two. And I think the worst part about the story is just the fact that you had to make Punisher black for it to exist. Because taken on its own, if you just ignore that guy being the Punisher and instead it's just like some incorrigible guy that works with Nic Cage, it's kind of an interesting story. And I like...
Did you say Nic Cage?
I probably did.
Well, Nic Cage was actually based his name off Luke Cage, literally.
Really?
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yes, I've been validated.
What?
Because his name's like actually, he was like Francis Coppola's son, and he's like, I don't want to be known as Francis Coppola's son. And he likes comics. He's like,
Wait, what?
I like Luke Cage, so I'll call myself Nic Cage.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Is that crazier than Sabrina?
Didn't he name his son Kal-El too?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yep.
He did.
Yep.
I forgot about that. I'm looking this up. I don't fucking believe you.
Phil's rapidly Googling it. So I definitely like the story a lot too, but I think there are a lot of things that get in the way of it being like great. And I think Darryl really nailed it with that, because the Punisher doesn't have an origin that like has to be the Punisher. Like, it could have very easily been a different guy that like wanted revenge on criminals for a lot of different reasons. But at the same time, they wanted to do a backdoor pilot for the Luke Cage book in a book people were buying with a kind of similar tone. So I get it, but like, I feel like this could have been like really great, but instead it was just like pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
pretty good.
one of the stories I enjoy is stuff like where it's like Hal Jordan when he met
Jon Stewart
yeah,
from The Daily Show.
I felt like that was a great story because it's about challenging your convictions and challenging what you think you believe is right. And I feel like this is what was doing with the Punisher. Just at the end of it, Punisher's like, no, I'm still right.
This is kind of what you were worried about when you said, I was worried it's going to be where at the end where they kind of reset things. I think you said something like that. Like you were they were going to do that at the end. And they kind of did that here.
I have to agree that it is always interesting when people are like forcing people to challenge their convictions. I want to say that Sly, every time we have a D&D campaign, he's like, "Oh, you're the religious character, so would you save all humans or kill your god?" And it's like he's always like, "Which beliefs do you want to go against?" And
but then it feels like this sucks. I
make fun. No, I make fun of the fact that you do it a lot, but I always enjoy it, and everyone does. So I'm not.
It's entertaining.
Yeah,
because it's like it's interesting to see. To make people make that choice of,
because we've seen those archetypes played with so much that sometimes like having the contradiction is so much more interesting.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because rarely does a pacifist team up with a person that believes death is like the worthy jurisdiction for every criminal.
Yeah.
Without one of them being a straw man.
Yeah.
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 There's actually a series called Hawk and Dove, which is basically that premise, but the dove is pretty much a pussy, while Hawk is like the actual hero of the story.
Sly. So, are you glad you read this, Sly?
Actually, I remember this like worse than it was. It actually holds up better than I remember it being. I hated it more when I was a kid because now I think I get more of the racial tones. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I get what I was trying to go for more, but I do feel like the writing's flawed. I think this is an average story with some promise that it could have fulfilled.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
I think it's above average.
That's fair.
I also haven't read a lot of Punisher on my own, so who knows?
Also, the majority of the comics you've read are for this fucking podcast.
Yep, yes, that is true.
So it's better than Nemesis.
I would say this is better than Nemesis, yeah.
Obviously. How do you ever have to make that call? Like, everything is better than Nemesis, except obviously.
No, Spider-Man Reign. I like Spider-Man Reign less than Nemesis.
I mean, fucking read.
I want to make at the end of the year. I want to do like a top worst comic for each one of us, for top best comic for each one of us. But it's tough because everyone's gonna say Nemesis.
No, Darryl's gonna pick Nemesis as his favorite.
It's not my favorite though. I like this more.
I wish that we had enough fans that cared enough to make us like best ofs, like mixtapes of Darryl talking about Nemesis.
Yeah.
I just can't believe how often you're like, this is not as bad as something else. Nemesis is probably
guys.
Okay, all right.
We don't need to talk about Nemesis.
I just hated it so much. I just hated it.
We'll
so
save
much.
it for the Nemesis recast.
Nemesis 2 or Nemesis the movie.
Oh yes, all right.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So before we get to the letters page, because I do have a letter, I just want to give a shout out to some of our friends on the Comrade Radio Network. This week you should check out Surely Not Surely. They get drunk and talk about advice, or give advice. They don't talk about advice.
I was giving me advice the other day. Now let's just talk about it.
Yeah, and you should check it out. It's a lot of fun. So our first and only letter, it's not a question. Well, I guess it's kind of a question. But it's not a question we really have to answer.
I thought you were going to say our first and only fan.
It comes from Facebook, or Divisive Issues Facebook page.
Is it Barry Anderson?
It's not Barry Anderson. It's from
Okay.
Tracy.
Okay.
And she says, have you heard of The Secret History of Wonder Woman by Jill Lepore? I'm only a few chapters in, but it's all about how the creation of Wonder Woman ties to feminism. Definitely a useful text to shove at anyone who thinks social justice doesn't belong in comics. Thought it might be useful to you guys. And I feel like the past month we've talked a lot about, like, SJWs and like tackling racism and feminism and stuff in comics. So I wanted to give a shout out to that book. It sounds great.
Yeah, I'd actually be interested in that because I never felt like social issues don't belong in comics as much as they're often poorly handled.
Yes. So I would definitely be interested in reading that book as well, Tracy. So thank you very much.
But my issue is that, does Wonder Woman turn black in it or not? Because if not, I don't know if it fits.
And, as always, rate, review, subscribe, iTunes, Stitcher. Lots of activity on the SoundCloud lately, which is awesome.
Only yesterday. Every other day's dead.
Yes.
Divisiveissues@gmail.com.
Yes. And then recommendations. Who wants to go first?
Okay.
You go first, Sly.
My recommendation is related to Cage's history. I mentioned that he was canceled for a while, and before he got canceled, to avoid cancellation, he teamed up with another hero made to cash in on a popular movie genre at the time, the kung fu popularity of the 70s, called Iron Fist. And Power Man Iron Fist is one of the most iconic duos in comics because of that. Luke Cage and Iron Fist, which are both getting Netflix series now. And I want to recommend the revival of that series. It just came out 2016. So if you hate old comics, like which a lot of people apparently do,
I do.
It's a very good book.
Cool.
I'll
go. I, as you've probably gathered from the episode, am not a huge Punisher fan. And we talked about at the very beginning how he usually works better, in my opinion, spotlighting with a different character. So I want to recommend Greg Rucka's run of the Punisher, because the whole run is basically a woman, a Marine, I think she's a Marine, at her wedding.
I think so too.
Everyone gets killed except her. And she basically becomes like the Punisher's, I don't want to say sidekick, but like
partner.
Side chick.
Their doll.
yeah. And it's really great because basically she's walking the line of like, should I become the Punisher or should I grow as a character? Like Sly was saying, how the Punisher kind of has to stay the Punisher, and it lets us see a lot of insight into like what could happen to the Punisher if he was allowed to develop past his concept. And it's also just fantastic across the board. So I highly recommend it.
That sounds cool. Why aren't we reading that?
Yeah. I don't know. What about you, Darryl?
I'm going to recommend The Wire. For if you want to see, again, if you want to empathize
Pussy shit.
and understand why people, it's like, if you're a person that thinks to themselves, I don't know why people sell drugs. That's a pretty bad thing to do. I think that's a really great show where you're like, oh, this is like an extremely complicated situation. Because I found myself sympathizing more at the street level people than the police.
Same. And I think, I didn't want to recommend that again because I've already recommended The Wire. But
So you're going to recommend that civil rights documentary that you've recommended twice?
Eyes on the Prize. No,
No, I'm going to recommend Fight Taxi instead.
I'm going to recommend Daredevil, Netflix Daredevil, Season 2, because it, like you have already said, that Punisher with someone else as a contrast is the best. And it basically is about the same issue where they're like, Daredevil's like, don't kill people. He's like, I kill people. And their dynamic is interesting.
Yeah.
But it's a really, Netflix Daredevil is just amazing TV, by the way. So I'm talking about season 2 here, but watch season 1. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on.
So the last thing that I want to do very quickly is some plugs. So
Some hair plugs.
hair plugs. So
Some butt plugs.
as always, which I always try to mention more, but I always forget, Sly and Darryl have books that are really great on novelgraphics.com. That's with a hyphen in between them. You should buy them. And they don't give me a cut for this free promotion.
The hyphen between novel graphics. To clarify.
Yes, novel-graphics.com.
Yeah.
And also, just last week, I guested on the Comrade Radio show. It's like the main show of the network. So if you want to hear me talk about how old comics are great and not shitty like Phil and Darryl think, then check that out. And that's it.
Cool.
Sweet.
Right? Thank you guys for listening. I've been a crackhead.
I've been Eraserhead.
I've been Wrench.
And I've been Wrench's Wrench.
Stay in continuity.